We are stars. We are crystallized pieces of carbon put under great pressure that brought us into existence. We are diamonds in the rough. Just as diamonds in the earth are under pressure, which is organic life, by the way, coal, carbon, that is coal crystallizes, becomes diamonds. When you go into the cosmic universe, you have nanodiamonds that become stars. And so there is a relationship between starlight, diamonds, and human light. We are not of the earth. Even our ancestors said it in the Shabbat stone. They said that it was Nut that gave birth. Geb was male. Nut was female. Shu came down, separated the sky from the earth, and that allowed the oxygen-carbon cycle to occur, that allowed Nut to swallow the sun at night and give birth to it during the day, which basically is the cycle of the light and heat energy that created life on earth. And that is why our ancestors, our Kushite, Kashite, called them children of the sun. We're not children of the earth, we're children of the sun. We are pieces of starlight encased in this tomb that has been given a certain amount of time to live on the planet, that we will return back to the mighty oceans of Nun at one appointed time. And all that we do in this world is will. Dr. King told us, your character is built during times of controversy and conflict, not comfort and convenience. Kepra, the dung beetle, represents dung. It's a beetle that eats dung. How many times we say, I don't want to eat, well, we use another word, but we don't want to eat that dung. Every time I go to work, they're always going to make me eat that dung. Well, hey, that perfects your character. And it also allows you to live a life that our ancestors lived. Because instead of cursing the wind for bringing you misfortune, bless the wind for giving you a chance to better your character. It cuts out a lot of our argument, because certainly our ancestors on the plantation didn't spend much time complaining. They realized the condition they were in, but they put in place a plan to get them out. And I understand how we got here. There's no question, no doubt in my mind how we have gotten here. I don't have any question about the oppression and the pain and the torture that has put us in this pit. But I am tired of talking about who threw us in the pit. I know who threw us in the pit. If someone throws you in the pit, it's their fault. But if you stay in the pit, it's your fault. We have to start getting out of the pit. And the way to do that is stop talking about who threw us in the pit. Let's get a plan how to get us out the pit. And Dr. Sheikh Anta Diop teaches us that there are three things that happen when you want to oppress a people. You take their history, you take their language, and you take away their psychological factor. Their psychological factor are things such as your rituals, your ceremonies, the people you honor, the things that you bless. When they can get Africans to honor George Washington, you have lost your psychological factor. In fact, folk tell me, I'm out of my cotton picking mind. And I say, I am. The problem is you in a cotton picking mind. For you to honor, hey, you got to define it, okay? It's all right. Sometimes that takes a little time. For us to honor George Washington or live in that pedophile's project, okay? Thomas Jefferson houses. Something happens to the psychological factor. How can you honor a man who took advantage of 12-year-old girls, and to hide his sin, he moved her to Paris? That's a psychological factor. How can we honor someone else's history that dishonored our own? And so history is understanding not only where you are, but where you've been. But as important, where are you going? And how are you going to get there? And when you get there, what are you going to do? These are the kinds of dynamic questions we have to ask ourselves, because we're spending too much time, I believe, not all of us. Obviously, since you came here, you're not. I'm talking to the choir, so I understand that. But we're spending a great deal of our time, I think, like a gerbil in that stepper that's just going in circles. He think he's going somewhere, but she's just going in circles because it's the ladder that's turning and not the gerbil actually moving. We have to look at our history, but a dynamic history. We have to look at a history that allows us to go someplace with what we know. To honor Imhotep because he was the builder of the step pyramid is great. But to understand the engineering, the math, the language arts, and all the things that made it allows us to return back into our community to build our own homes. It's dead history just to honor Imhotep. We have to give birth to him in us, and to study hard, and to be willing to demand that our children learn their history. But they're not going to learn it in the public school system. Because I'm going to tell you this right now. I have recently graduated, July of '09. Some people call it retirement. I call it graduation. Because now I'm doing what I was born to do. And in all of the 31 years and 3 months and 15 days I spent in the Board of Education, there was one thing that I came to grips with, and that is that the Board of Education is not failing. In fact, they're succeeding quite well because their purpose is to miseducate our children. If I were them, I'd miseducate the children too. I would do that. My problem is what's wrong with us. It's not them. There's a wolf outside your door. You see the wolf from your window. You go outside unprepared. The wolf bites you. You complain the wolf bites you, but you knew it was a wolf when you looked out your window. Why did you prepare yourself to meet that wolf on equal terms? We know what we're facing in the Board of Education. We know why Kathy Black was put there. We know why Klein and Levi and all the rest of them were put there. We know that. Dr. Clark used to tell us, I'm surprised that you're surprised. We have to implement a program that develops a corrective history path that allows our young people to be able to understand who they are and what their potential is, and to search for the gift that the Creator has given them through will or through magic. Search for it. What is your passion? And I tell children, your passion is what you would do for free, but you do it so well, people pay. Because when you find your passion, you find what you do well. When you do something well, people are willing to give you what we call money to do the job. And you do it so well, they'll always come back to you to get the job done. And that's the way you will accumulate money, if you want to break it like that. I'm all for altruism, but altruism don't pay the rent, don't put food on the table. And so in reality, we created trade and commerce, and we did it quite well. We have to start to look at this when we're looking at will. Will is work ethic. We're trying to get paid, but we don't want to do work. My cousin told me, my cousin works in a prison in Virginia. He's a baker. And he said that some of the other folk, will call on Friday and say they're not coming to work, but can they come in to pick up their paycheck? We have to have a work ethic. We have to work hard at what we do. We have to, Dr. Clark used to always say, perfect your craft. But when you're doing something that you don't want to do, when you haven't found your passion and you're just doing it to be doing it, your heart and your soul ain't in it. So there are a lot of doctors that are losing their patients on the table because granddad and dad was a doctor, but they never wanted to be a doctor. They would rather be an artist. There are people in all sorts of professions that are doing what they're doing to please their parents or please their family or think they're going to make money. But that's really not what life is about, and that's not what our ancestors put this stuff down on the line for us to do. We were all born with a divine purpose. And there's something very different from each and every one of us, no matter if we do the same thing. It's different in some way or another. We have to search for that gift that we've been given. And I do realize, we're going to have to do certain things that we may not want to do. I spent 31 years in the Board of Education watching what was happening, but I used that as my laboratory. I watched our children. I saw things in our children. Our children are absolutely wonderful. Hip-hop, I love hip-hop. Am I concerned about some things I hear? Yeah, but I'm more concerned about how they're being treated than I am what they say. It's like someone talking one thing, dropping their pants, like I've said before. I have a challenge with dropping the pants. I've been psychologically trying to figure out. But maybe it's because we've been showing our children our butt for so long, they decided to show us theirs. And so they say, look, this is what I'm going to show you. This is how you've been acting towards me. I'm going to show you my butt because you've been showing me yours. And you've been walking around with your pants on the ground, not accepting the responsibility for teaching me and to being there with me and to begin to develop a relationship with me. And now all of a sudden you come at me 16, 17 years old and you telling me what I'm not doing. But where were you when my pants fell when I was a toddler running in me? When you pull my pants? No, you didn't pull my pants. You weren't there. I am not saying that they should go around with their pants up. I'm saying all of us need to pull our pants up. And maybe they wouldn't have to drop theirs if we pulled up ours. And I'm speaking about the adults. I'm very concerned about the adults because many of us didn't step up. And again, I'm preaching to the choir here. I know that. But as you look outside and you see what's happening in our community, our children didn't learn to do this on their own. They learned it somewhere. Something happened that made them teach them this, and somehow or other they are reflecting what we have been to them. In other words, they are not the image. They're the reflection of our image. I never heard a curse word they use that, and I haven't heard an adult use. They have not invented, they may have changed the spelling of a couple of them. So what I think when our young people, and when I look at our young people, I have for years observed a most wonderful group of human beings searching for order and arrangement in their lives. I have attempted to be that as many times and in any way that I possibly could. Sometimes I don't have the answer, but I have the will. And that's a magical experience. And so when we're talking about magic, we're talking about will, strength, the will to make something happen. Brother Mfundishi, of course, has many talents. And when I thought of he and I presenting to our community this way, I wondered in what way could we present information and we don't necessarily have to repeat each other, but we bounce off each other. And what I wanted to do is to talk to you about a simple concept as it relates to the will or the magic of our people. Because we have it. All of us have it. I see it all the time in us. It's powerful. Even people I may not agree with, they have it. They have it. We may not like the way it's manifesting itself. We may not like some of the things that we hear, but they have it. And for whatever experiences they're having or have had in their life, they're doing the very best they possibly can, even if it may be misguided according to my perspective. Because they look at me and they say, I'm misguided. But that's okay. It's all right. Because when it gets down to it, time will tell. Time will handle all this. Time will take care of this. But what we have to do as a people is to become very clear and concise about our experiences and about what we're dealing with, what we're facing, and what we're willing to do for our people. And one of the first things that we have to look at is that we cannot talk about Kemet without talking about Cush. You can't understand it. It's like trying to explain your family, but leaving your grandparents out the conversation.
Break it down.
You'll talk about your current family, but you can't talk about what brought your family into existence, what gave it its intelligence, what the DNA structure of it is. Because of the nature of where you're beginning the story begins in the origins of what we call organic life in Africa. We can give it any date we want to. 100,000, 200,000, 1.5 million. You can look at the Miocene period in the Earth geology and go back 25 million to 14 million. We're not interested in dates. When we get this right, we'll date it very differently than the way we're dating it now. Just the fact that they have brought the human species back 1 million years, now they have Ardipithecus. Now they're saying she is older than Lucy by 4.4 million years. That came out last year. Well, I'm telling you right now, we're going back a long way from that. A long, long way from that. Let me just show you a little bit of what I'm talking about. I came upon this book, very interesting. I heard about the book, didn't see it. It's called Black Genesis. It's written by Robert Bauval and Thomas Brophy. Okay, very interesting book. Men of Eurasian descent. Saying something that Dr. Ben has told us for a long, long time. Dr. Clark has told us. Sheikh Anta Diop proved it. Dr. Bowling has taught us this. There's nothing new. But the difference is they're saying. And they're beginning to realize. Anthony Browder has an introduction in the book. Let me tell you what Brother Tony says. In Black Genesis, Bauval and Brophy combined their investigative skills to answer an obvious but often neglected question. Who were the ancient Egyptians? With new astroarchaeological evidence, they build a strong case for the African origin of the pharaohs and have dramatically altered our understanding of the past. Here's Anthony Browder. They have a page that impressed me because it's dedicated to Dr. Sheikh Anta Diop. And what's important about this concept is that they have done it through astroarchaeological terms, and that is why I have often encouraged us to look at astronomy as the answers as it relates to the human origins and the human species on the planet. It becomes extremely important that we understand this and that we develop this concept, because it's only when you can understand. Well, let me put it to you another way, and then I'll tell you a couple other things about this. Somebody comes in this room, and they come to that door. They come right here, and they stop, and they look at you. They give you the fist. They walk around and walk out the door. What just happened? Really, I mean, no trick question. Just what I said. That's what happened. You tell me what happened. No, we can talk. This is our time together. You know, we can talk.
Another way of saying what's up. Yeah.
Okay. Well, what happened literally, though? Literally.
An introduction.
Literally. See, we are assuming that through our own perspective of how I explained it to you. What I'm asking you is just what happened. Describe to me what happened.
Somebody came in.
Yes. Yes. Gave. Right. And then what? Went out. Make sense? There's no trick question. See, I don't play with folk. So I'm not trying to be slick here. You know, and see, that's another thing about education. You know, we all try to be slick as educators and as professors. You know, like I teach, I'm in the Black Studies department at SUNY New Paltz, upstate. I'm in the Black Studies department. I teach courses, and when I give quizzes, I give the students a week before I give the quiz or the test, I give them the 25 questions, and then we go over it in class. When I'm teaching it, I tell them this is going to be on the test. And so what I'm really doing is I'm trying to make sure psychologically that they understand 25 things. Okay? Because I'm not playing. Because when you're in school and you're studying and you take a test, if the professor hasn't told you what he or she is going to ask you, you don't spend your time studying. You spend your time trying to figure out what was important to the professor that's going to be on that test the next day. It's all a game. It had nothing to do with what you know. It's how you know the professor that's important. So right there, I'm not playing no games. And I tell students, right, I'm not playing with you. The worst thing I can do is waste your time, and the worst thing you can do is waste mine. Let's not play. This is what I want you to know about Introduction to Africa. This is what I want you to know about Malcolm X. 25 things. And if at the end of that term they can walk away with 75 things they know. They know something. And they know why I taught the class. You see the psychology behind this? This is all a game that we're playing here with our students. And that's why they reject us as educators. Because they don't want to be played games with. So, with that in mind, I keep talking, as I did. All of a sudden, come right, same person comes back, stands here, gives you the fist, walks out. What can you tell me now? No trick. No, what happened? The same thing. And what was the same thing?
Posture. Some guy walked in.
Yes.
The face,
Yes.
Walked out.
There we go. And I'm going to keep talking to you, give you another example. We're going to talk about a couple of things. And all of a sudden I'm talking, and all of a sudden he comes back in. Stands here. What can you tell me now? This is the last time I'm going to do this. I'm going to cut the story short. Please.
For some reason, he wants you to see him come in and raise a fist.
Well, you're assuming that. I'm asking you what actually happened.
Oh, well, he walks in, he raises a fist, he laughs.
That's it.
A few times.
Has anything tapped into your mind yet? Has anything touched you yet? Have you thought about it? What might you think?
He's not giving you any attention.
Say again?
You want attention.
Yeah, you could think that. But what else might you think, brother?
It sounds to me like the point you're making is to stop going through your filter about what happened and say directly what occurred.
Exactly. Really.
Brother, that's a great interpretation, but you're assuming that.
Once again, yeah, I assume. Actually, I made an example of what I just said just now.
Okay, let me ask you this. Did the thought ever come to you that this might be something that's going to happen in a pattern? That's really what I'm getting at. Did you think it was a pattern the first time he came through?
No.
How about the second time? How about the third time? What might somebody do in the room the third time?
Do it back.
They're conditioned.
Is it timed? Is it timed? Is that cycle cyclical? Is it every 2 minutes that he does it? Is it every 4 minutes? Does it make sense to you at that point? First of all, the first thought that comes into your mind is that, is it a pattern? Because the first time you may not know. The second time, it may hit you, but it may not concretize. But the third time, you're saying, this seems like a pattern to me. And then somebody in the room might say, well, is it a timed pattern that this is happening? And so what might somebody do when they do that?
Timing.
They time them. I'm going to keep talking to you. He's going to come. Now what are you going to say? Every 3 minutes he does it. Would that make sense? Does that make sense to you? The reason why I tell you this is because in that book, and in a series called Magical Egypt, I think it's number 6, and in this book, Thomas Brophy wrote an origin map. It's called the Origin Map. And in this book, he highlights the fact that the ancient Kemites, just west of Aswan, Africans had developed a 26,000-year calendar. 12 houses, 2,160 years per house. So that instead of going, it's called the precessional of the equinoxes. Like we go Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, it goes backwards. Many, many years ago, before 2000, we were in the age of Aries, or the ram, or in Egypt, it was the Amen priesthood. Okay? And that's why the Khnum of Cush is seen at Jebel Barkal and a number of different places, because Khnum, or the ram, was really the nature of that particular age. However, the ram would have to be sacrificed to bring in the next age, which happened, give or take, because we don't know what time it is. We really don't, but let's just say for the dates that we have, 2011 years ago, there came into existence what? The age of Pisces, or the fishermen. So, the ram had to be sacrificed, and the son of the ram, had to be crucified in the heavens in order to bring the next age in. And so therefore, the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world. Agnus Dei, for those of you who speak Latin. The Lamb of God. The child of the ram. The E-W-E is the female ram. The ram is the male, and the lamb is the child. that would bring in the age of the fishes, which would be what? Pisces. We are now, they made a play about it, movie 2. This is the age of Aquarius. We're moving into Aquarius now. 2,160 years. Now, let's go back to this story that we told. And by the way, 12 times 2,160 work out to 25,920. So there's an 80-year give or take on that 26,000 year. However, for our ancestors to have been able to chart the Orion or the Osirian constellation, the first time that came, well, first of all, they had to be aware of stars and formations. But the second thing is for them to have been able to chart for 20, when the Orion constellation came, that's the first time. Okay? There was no way they knew there was a 26,000 year cycle. So it just went through and went out the door. And then the second 26,000 year cycle. And the third 26,000 years. Somewhere along the line, Africans down there said, wait a minute, this seems to be a pattern. Let's chart it. And that's when they created the 26,000 years. So how old are the Kashites?
Wow.
How old are they to have gone through a 26,000 year calendar? And that's what this book is about. It actually charts the 26,000 years that the Kemites had laid out in a place called Nabtaplaya. And Thomas Brophy was there. And he wrote and charted in the ground the way, in fact, he didn't chart it. It was already charted. He was trying to figure out why those stones were sticking in the ground the way they were. And when he sat there and looked, he began to see the constellations were moving.
Look at it.
See that history that we're dealing with? Now you telling me that peoples outside of Africa went down there and was living down there for that period of time that they could do that? To be able to create Neteru, parts of their Meduneter that is not indigenous to Kemet. Lions are from Inner Africa. So where you get the letter L from? The ostrich, the feather of Ma'at, is indigenous to the grasslands of Inner Africa. So how are people going to create an alphabet utilizing symbols that's not even in their psychological thought bank? So why do we even discuss this thing? We discuss this because we let them discuss it.
Right.
Conversation's over. I present that book only because there are people of Eurasian descent willing to tell the truth. I present this book because Thomas Brophy was willing to tell the truth and show what he had. But more importantly, it's important that we take it and put it within our psychological factor to understand what actually we're talking about. Because it's right in front of us all the time. That situation I gave you with the guy coming in 4 times was a prelude to explain to you how old we really are. But you have to also understand that to have something like that over 26,000 years, how many generations of education had we had to have experienced to hand it down? If we lived 100 years each, what did it take to hand it down to our children in vital, concise, and clear understanding that they could chart it and take it to the next level? So how long has this really existed? When we started to chart it, we had to have had a mastery of astronomy already.
Come on.
Make sense? See, I'm trying to make sense here. I'm not asking you to believe anything that I say. It's very important that you don't believe me, but that you research for yourself. That's very important to me. Because too many times we try to persuade you to believe me, when that's not even the purpose of education. Education is for someone to make that light switch that you turn on and see things in the room. Because all this information is in your head. I'm not telling you anything you didn't know. It's in your code. It's in your DNA, it's in your code, it's in your hair, it's in your fingernails, it's in your heart, it's in your lungs. It's in and out of you. It is ubiquitous to the existence that you have. But we're not looking at it because we have this other stuff around us. And so my job really here is to just attempt to assist us in removing this junk that's around us. so that you can turn on the light. Because the recesses of our Akashic records, the records of those things that have happened and those things that are happening and those things that are yet to happen, it's like a cluttered up closet where everything is up over the light switch. You got to start taking boxes down before you, oh, there's the light switch. You flip it on and you see it. But we have to have a work ethic. We have to work. We have to read. We have to study. We have to support the vendors. We have to come to activities like this. We have to make this the rule and not the exception. Because all the speakers that will come before you have something to say. Everybody has something to say. Everybody is a part of this puzzle. And your job is to put your puzzle together. And some of us may be different pieces in your puzzle. But everyone who is coming to the presentation, Bobby Hemmett blew my mind. I'll tell you that now. When I listen to Bobby Hemmett, I say, damn. I mean, he just blows my mind. Delbert Blair's another one. Phil Valentine. The one thing about them, the one thing I said about Delbert and I were together one time, and I was just listening to this brother, and he had his glasses on, thick glasses. And I was just looking at the brother. And after he presented, I spoke, and I said, the one thing about Delbert Blair is that when you're in his presence, it's like a rubber band. Okay? The rubber band is like this, right? But Delbert pulls that rubber band. He pulls your mind. And he snaps it, and it goes. Now, a lot of times you go back, okay? Because Delbert, come on, brother. I love you, brother. But some of that stuff. I love the brother, but my mind is never the same after I'm in his presence. And that's what I appreciate about that brother. He makes me think, and I like that. I like people to make me think. Get me out my box. Get me out the comfort level that I was before you started talking. I like that. So that rubber band that snaps back, it may snap back, but it's just a little bit wider than it was when he first started pulling on it. So that all of us have something to offer in one way or another. Take the sense out the nonsense. Take what makes sense to you, apply it to your life. The nonsense, well, at least you know it doesn't apply to you. Give it to somebody else because it may apply to them. This is what we have to start to look at. So to prepare this, origin map, Black Genesis, interesting.
Excuse me, brother. Black Genesis, you say his name was Robert what?
Robert Bauval, B-A-U-V-A-L. B-A-U-V-A-L, and Thomas Brophy, B-R-O-P-H-Y. As we go through the presentation and after all things is said and done,
Thank you.
I'll leave it here for you to look at. We can look at it. I'm going to leave it over in that section, okay? Just something I want you to be aware of. As we move towards Kemet and we look at the will and the magic, what has been developed and understood. This comes from a sister by the name of Miriam Ramonji. She wrote a book called Kush, the Jewel of Nubia. And sister wrote, the great civilization of Kemet, or ancient Egypt, will remain a mystery until the people/land of Kush, and Kush includes, in the ancient world we called it Nubia, today we call it Sudan, today we call it Ethiopia, but then it was called Abyssinia, and Puanit, which was called Somalia today, it was called Puanit then. It includes what the countries we today call Eritrea and Djibouti, are geographically and culturally enjoined and rejoined to the people/land of Kemet, ancient Egypt. This process, Dr. Ramonjes calls the beheading of Africa. Kemet is the mouthpiece, but inner Africa is the brain. Mouth can't say what the mind hasn't thought, and so they become a very interesting dynamic. And so it's important to understand this concept. You cannot understand Kemet, and that is why in today's research, people now are trying to talk about extraterrestrial beings, and they're trying to talk about all this other stuff that come from this place or that place, when in reality this was just about genius Africans that had lived for thousands of years and developed a sacred science that at their will they could call what they wanted into being. And we today call that what? Magic. And we call it chem mystery. Chem black mystery. Black magic. I got that from Professor Yibo. Don't want to take brother's stuff. Okay. To understand this, I'd like to share with you in our schools, we need to start to implement Peter's projection map. Peter's projection map is a map that was developed by a German cartographer. Cartographer is a person that studies and develops maps. Cartography is the study of maps and globes. The Mercator map that you see to your left is the map that is in most of our classrooms today. The Peters map is a map that was created through spaceships going into outer space. As you can see, Africa is much larger in reality. On the right-hand side. South America is much larger. India is much larger. Europe is much smaller. I ain't mad at them. That's just the way it looks from outer space.
Look at it.
It's a peninsula.
Yeah, and it's a peninsula. It's not a. It is not a continent. It's a large landmass surrounded on three sides by water. But when you're writing the books, when you're writing the books, then you can make you a continent if you want to. Okay, now I'm going to take out Africa from the Peters projection map. And what I'm going to encourage all of us to do, which is what we're doing at the Per Ankh, which is a house of life that we have developed. We meet at our brother Mfundishi's Black Cultural Gold Center on Thursdays from 6 to 9. And what we're going to do is we are going to start to develop that. One of the outcomes of leaving in June, when we have our last class, is that we will know all 50-odd countries of Africa. That's one of our goals. Because there's no way we can really drop no knowledge on anybody if we don't, by rote memory, as we know the multiplication table and we know the periodic table of elements. It don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. And if we don't know the countries of Africa. Now, I realize what happened in 1885. Please know that. I realize that. But to have a discussion in the world that we're living in today, we have to know the countries of Africa. When we go back to work ethic, when we go back to studying, we have to understand and know the countries of Africa. When it comes to language, quite frankly, we must make Medunete the classical African language for African people.
Speaking.
Medunete must become the classical language.
Don't hold back.
Just like Greek is to the Eurasian world, we must make Medunete the classical African language. And the practical language, because we probably will not go around speaking Medunete to each other, but we can speak Kiswahili. We should make Kiswahili the practical spoken. So if I go to Brazil and I'm with a brother that speaks Portuguese or a sister that speaks Portuguese, I speak English, we should speak to each other in Kiswahili. If I go to Holland and there's a sister or a brother that speaks Dutch and I speak English, we should be able to speak to each other. And the reason why I keep all African language are pertinent and worthy of our study. But Kiswahili is the largest African language spoken in the world. Not to mention it's the 7th largest language spoken of all the languages in the world. And so practically speaking, I'm not saying Twi does not have its place, or Yoruba doesn't have its place, or Igbo doesn't have its place. What I'm saying is that a practical step forward to regain our Africanness through language is to choose the largest African language spoken on the planet, not to mention that a lot of our celebrations and psychological factor like Kwanzaa is there. We say to each other, Ujambo, Sijambo. Even back in the day, I understood that beautiful people use Afro-sheen. Watu Wazuri use Afro-sheen. Okay. You remember that? Well, I'm dating myself. Y'all know. Watu Wazuri use. Beautiful people use Afro-sheen.
That's all right, brother. You're with family.
That's it. That's it. And I'm not ashamed.
That's right.
Richard Pryor said, you don't get old by being a fool.
Take your time. Go ahead.
So that, Medunete. And again, just to give props to Brother Mfundishi, he has a class on Medunete. So that that might be a concept if you're looking for it. And there are there are African languages, places that speak Kiswahili. There are books that have Kiswahili. All this can be done, but it takes a work ethic. When you're sitting on the bus doing nothing, study Kiswahili or study an African map. If you're waiting for the train, if you're waiting to go into a meeting, if you have some spare time, this is work ethic. We have to have a work ethic. Are we serious about what we're saying? See, that's my thing. Are we serious or are we just talking? And that's the kind of decision that we have to come to as a people. Are we serious or are we playing? Are we out there talking like James Brown say, like a dull knife just ain't cutting, talking loud, saying nothing? It sounds good. Power to the people. It sounds good. But do you know what it takes to give the power to the people? Or to assume the power to the people? It takes a work ethic. It takes study. It takes transforming your thought process to something that is going to be proactive. You're going to do something. And one thing we all can start doing right now, when you see that young brother or sister on the block where we walk, that we may have walked past, just look at him and say, Hotep. Or hello.
Or peace.
Peace. Whatever, talk to them. Because you'll notice that the hardest hard face will come crashing down to the ground. And every time they see you, they're going to look for you. They'll speak to you. I've been around them long enough to know. The hardest hard equals the hardest hurt. And through that algebraic equation, you cancel out like terms. Hard equals hurt. And I've always thought the harder they act, the more hurt they are. So instead of as a man trying to come at them with that, oh, you're a man now, right? Okay, you're a man now, right? Come up underneath that. Don't confront them. Just talk to them. These are the kind, and our sisters, we have to start talking to them. We need to address them in a respectful way. This is one thing we can start doing right now. We can theorize all these other things, but one thing we can start doing right now is on our way through our community. Because, it's un-African not to address each other. And it's un-African not to ask somebody how their family's doing. Because if I ask you how you doing and you say I'm doing fine, I say how your family doing, you got a lot of problems. You ain't fine. Well, you better not be fine. Because if your family's trouble, you trouble.
Absolutely.
It's very un-African to go onto an elevator and not speak to people on the elevator. It's very un-African. Now, I'm not saying put yourself in harm's way. Please understand that. Because I know there are cases where you must be careful, but that's something that we all learn in time. But we have to start thinking another kind of way with our young people. Because they're looking for direction. They're looking for order and arrangement. The mind craves order and arrangement. And that is why in an African tradition, there is no chaos. Chaos is nothing more nor less than pre-existing order and arrangement. Chaos is something waiting to be ordered and arranged. It's not out of order, it's waiting for order. There's a difference in the conceptual framework. So when I see a brother or sister out on the block may not be doing everything that he or she could do, my approach is not that there's something negative going on, it's that something positive is not going on. See, the African term of ma'at, Dr. Asa Hilliard talked about this, and Maulana Karenga has a book, big book on ma'at. Africans many times did not look at things through good and bad. They looked at good and what exists when it's not good. Because what is not good is waiting to be good.
Teach.
And so therefore the framework of your approach towards it is different. It's not that it's bad, it's that it's not good. And so therefore you're always trying to make it good from the way in which you're working your mind. See, this is psychological. They put us in a psychological mindset. And this is what all this has been made to do, to put us in a psychological mindset. And our job is to get out of this psychological mindset. So that, take it as a compliment when people tell you that you are out of your cotton picking mind. That's a compliment. I am out of a cotton picking mind. The problem is too many of us are in the cotton picking mind. And so this is Africa. Now, Dr. Diop teaches us that, this comes out of his book, and he teaches us that when you're dealing the origins of life here in Africa, that the human family is going to go through changes. And one of the things that's going to propel it into civilization, into consciousness, is they're going to look for something that is common to all people, all things. Very important. Not it's for some people and not for other people, but for all people. And what they found, the common theme, was in fact what brought them into existence, and it became the sun. Years later, you're going to have a pharaoh by the name of Akhenaten that's going to create an entire ode around this sun that is really a scientific encyclopedia when you study the Aten text, written on the western wall of Ai, who was one of his generals. I have some DVDs on the Aten text where we really kind of break it down to understand what our ancestors were talking about when they talked about the Aten. No different from the Atum, which is the creative word. But Africans, Dr. Clark said, after Africans got their show together, then they took it on the road. You had Africans leaving this section, what today we would call the countries of Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, the eastern fringe of Congo, and the northern fringe of Azania or southern Africa. And you're going to see them move south, they're going to move north, and they're going to move northwest. And they are going to, through environment, they're going to manipulate their consciousness, keep a cultural African background, but because of their environment, things are going to be tweaked a little bit. But basically, they're going to carry, and Dr. Diop has shown in Civilization of Barbarism the direct relationship between the language of Wolof in Senegal and the ancient Kemetic language. He shows relationships in these languages that you can see the base of knowledge coming up out of what we might call Medu Neter. But keep in mind, Medu Neter was brought into this geographic location we call Kemet or Egypt totally intact. And through the work of Dr. Ivan Van Sertima, Bruce Williams, and Keith Seal, who never really wanted this information out anyway, began to realize that south of what we call Kemet, 16 to 20 generations before the first dynasty, that Medu Neter was actually a thriving language in Cash. So this language was brought into Kemet fully intact with its syntax, its grammar, and its metaphoric nature. It was already in place. There were additions, improvements, no doubt. But it wasn't born in what we today call Egypt. Let me just say something else about this. When the Greeks got into the northern part up in here, they came upon an area. Now let me take you back to Mene. Mene, or Narmer, the first pharaoh of the first dynasty. When he came to this part of the world, when he came to this part of Kemet, coming south, moving north, if we want to say it that way, there was, in the river, it was a very important astronomical area. And what he did is he wanted to create a capital here. He rediverted the waters of Hapi. He had his engineers redivert the waters of Hapi. When they rediverted the waters of Hapi, he dumped up land onto this open area that was once part of the Nile River. He dumped up land. Hill in Medu Neter, Ptah. But Ptah became the hill. The essence of the hill, the essence of Ptah, became what he called this area. So he called this area Hiku Ptah. Hiku Ptah. Today we call it Memphis, the land of Menefer, or Mene. He called it Hiku Ptah. When the Greeks came to this area, and this became the theocratic capital, they didn't pronounce it Hikupata. So they pronounced it, He became A, Ku became Gu, Pata became Patos. So Hikupata became Egupatos. Through the Greeks, Romans, Arabs, people coming through, they corrupted Egupatos, which was a corruption of Hikupata. So Egupatos, A became E, Gu became G, and Patos became Pt. So Egypt is Eguptos, which is Hikupata. So it's just a corruption of an African thing anyway. But what on this planet isn't a corruption of an African thing? The only reason we don't know is because power is the ability to define someone's reality and have that person accept that definition as if it were their own. And so they have said something, we have bought it, their illusion became our reality. And this is what we're living. We're living their illusion that has become our reality, and yet our history is right in front of us, but we don't embrace it, not because we don't want to, but because we don't realize that it's ours.
Don't hold back.
Because there is no Greek language. The Greeks did a little something, something, but I mean, they added things to it. It wasn't all that great, but they added things to it. But the Rosetta Stone, they say that the top is Medunete or hieroglyphs, the middle is hieratic or demotic, and the bottom is classic Greek. That's not classic Greek. That's just another form of Kemetic writing that the Greeks could understand. Greeks don't have a language. How can you conjure syntax and punctuation in a language that you speak, but you have never been exposed to the things that's in that writing? Can't be done. When you go to, if you go to Puerto Rico and you want a sandwich, what do you ask for? You ask sandwich.
Un sandwich.
Un sandwich.
That's right.
Because there is no word, because sandwiches didn't come from Puerto Rico. So because it didn't, when a new word is introduced to a culture where they're going to embrace it, they just take the word and put it into their language. They might put a little vowel twitch to it, sandwich. So how could the Greeks create something that they never had and have a language that would reflect it?
They can't.
If they don't have elephants, how do you have a word for elephant?
They stole it from us.
They place it, well, they place it in their vocabulary. Okay, now, Spanish, in order to be a language, you must have a script. To be a language, you must have a script. English is not a language. Spanish is not a language. French is not a language. German is not a language. Romanian is not a language. Why?
They don't
They don't
have
have
a
a
script.
script.
What's their script?
They don't have one.
Well, what's the English script? A, B, C, D, E.
It's from Africa.
It's from Kemetic legacy. Okay? So, when our children are in school writing what we call English, what are they actually writing?
They're writing an African script.
That's an illusion. Because we don't know that.
We don't.
Because no one has told them that they don't have a script. Because English, Spanish, German, French, Italian all use Greek script. Greeks got it from the Kemites. The Kemites got it from the Kashites. Okay? These are things that are just beyond our, but psychologically, someone else's illusion can become your reality if you embrace it as such.
Just like Jesus.
The way knows, yes, all of that. Oh, we can get deep inside that.
On your reality.
That, you talk about magic.
Magic, yeah. It is.
Okay. This was the movement of Africans out of going throughout Africa. This is where they went to people the world. And they brought with them their consciousness, their ideas, their thoughts. their genius, but more importantly, they brought their will. They brought their consciousness, and they brought the power to bring into being things that had not been brought into being before. This is what we look at as kinetic magic, as will. Because when you are one with nature, who is to say what nature can and can't do? There used to be a commercial with Spike Lee and Michael Jordan years ago, where Mike would go up, right? And Spike would say, Mike, how you do that? And Mike would go like this. See, if Mike understood his will, he could have answered that question. But since he didn't know who he was, he couldn't answer that question. Because when Michael Jordan went up, he became nature. And who is to tell nature the laws of gravity when to come down? This is a science. It's not hocus pocus. It's not mumbo jumbo. Our ancestors performed magic on the plantation.
Yeah, I do magic too.
They did things that were beyond all understandings and clearly beyond definition. But one of the great challenges that the people who are the greatest magicians, you would never know. Because once you start talking about what you can do, you automatically start to lose that ability. Because whatever's been given to you has been given to you personally and privately. And once you start charging for it, you lose it. Not only that, but it'll backfire on you. You just do it. Like Dr. Clark used to say, Africans didn't go around saying, I'm my brothers and sisters' keeper. They just kept it. And a lot of the things that the great majority of us have done for each other has never been spoken about. The greatest gifts you will never know have been given to you. All of a sudden, something just happens for you. I've experienced this in my life before. I've not tried to explain it because explanation is not important. It's what's actually happening that's important. What this civilization tries to do is they try to explain it. And there's really no reason to explain it. Just do it. As African people. As African people, we have done this. We have that ability. We have that power. And we have to move from where we are somewhere else. And the same magic that we performed on the plantation, we must now perform right now. I look to the work that many of us are doing now, like Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman attempted to free our physical bodies. So she created the Underground Railroad. Now it is time to free our African minds and do it on the Underground Railroad. We are now about the Underground Railroad, and we must become conductors of this Underground Railroad. And so in leaving here today, after myself and Brother Mfundishi and your experiences with each other and the vendors, the question becomes, what are you going to do? Has this just become a presentation you attended? Or can you go back into the community and start some type of positive discussion with a young person? Don't have to lecture them, because first of all, well, they want to hear it, but they don't know they want to hear it. It's not until they hear you that they know they want to hear it.
Oh, okay.
Okay? Just a simple salutation to them. A simple smile. Respect. This is what we have to start to do. But we have to do something. And the question becomes this black magic, this chemistry. To understand how to develop this conversation with each other. You know, I was once told by a brother that it's not the notes in music that make the sound, it's the empty spaces between them. And I've often thought about that even as I do presentations. I spend time just quiet. To give us time to just let what's the vibration magic, if you want to call it like that. So I'm fundamentally trying to break this down so when Brother Mfundishi comes before us and I sit down and take out my notebook to learn, that you understand that everything and anything that you do in life is magic. And when you look at our experience as a people, my goodness.
what we have been through as a people, man, I fall in love with us the more I study our history.
Oh, yes.
I just have, I'm in awe of what we have done. I honestly believe that there are 6 forms of the human family, as Dr. Diab says: Australopithecus robustus, Australopithecus gracile, Homo habilis, Homo erectus, Homo sapiens, and Homo sapiens sapiens. I believe that we are the 7th form of human man. We are Homo perfectus. We are the human being that has taken the golden legacy of our past and the hell we've been living in for the past 500 years, put it together and show that it's not the strong that survive. And it is not the survival of the fittest. It's the ones that can adapt to new surroundings. That's who survives. Strong people can go down. Fit people can go down. But if you know how to survive and you can move to the next level, you are going to be the 7th form of the human family. Because every one of those entities went through challenges that they met, and some of them couldn't adapt, some did. They went on. So out of Australopithecus robustus grew Australopithecus gracile. Gracile went through certain situations. Some of them couldn't handle it, some of them could. They went on to Homo habilis. Some of them couldn't handle it, some of them did. Homo habilis went on to Homo erectus and left the African continent. That's how we know life started in Africa, because the first 3 forms of human being can only be found in Africa by millions of years. But every form that has ever existed came out of Africa. So this idea, Eurasians talk about this polygenesis, where there have been multiple, never existed. There's a monogenesis. Every human family has come out of Africa and moved into the world and peopled the world. And now, as it says in the Battle of Kadesh in Abu Simbel, it says that the sun will rise in the east for its final time and set in the west. And it will stay in the west for a certain amount of time. And at some appointed time and some anointed time, the sun will rise out of the west by magic, return back to the east, and bring back the cycle of life. We are the sun that was taken from the east and brought to the west. And this experience right now has been a Caprarian experience. They have made us eat dung for 500 years. But for those of us that could survive it and adapt to it, what didn't kill us made us strong. And we are now sitting as the next form of human being to rise out of the west, return to the east, and start this cycle back again. But we have to understand, as we move through this process, that all of our, you see, a prophet is not a psychic. A prophet is a good historian. Because when you know how things happen in the past, you know what's happening in the present. When you understand what's happening in the present, you can foretell the future. So when what you say, you know, Mark Twain said that history doesn't repeat itself, but it certainly does rhyme. Afghanistan is not Vietnam, but it certainly does rhyme with Vietnam. Okay? The Tea Party isn't the Ku Klux Klan, but it certainly rhymes with the Ku Klux Klan. No matter what they say, no matter how many black folk they got speaking for them. Remember, we've had a lot of Tea Party amongst us for a long time. We got some at Yale University, but we're going to leave that alone. We shall overcome by any means necessary. Marcus Garvey said, we are a people who will rise by the will of our wills. And Bob Marley says that no one can curse who Jah has blessed. And the fact that we're still here doing what we're doing, Jah has blessed us. Let us get ready for what's about to come. Because we have difficult days ahead. But Dr. King said it. We will get to the promised land. The bad news is a lot of us ain't going to make it. But it don't make no difference, because this thing ain't over until we win. And we got to leave here knowing that. And we got to understand this. Brothers and sisters, it has been my honor and pleasure. Shemem Hotep.
Peace, everybody. That was part 1. And the brother will be, brother Mfundishi will be coming up shortly. We're going to take a 45-minute break, and we'll come back. Peace. Peace. Back, and we just have to once again give a brother a round of applause, Brother Kaba. Robbing the presentation. Yeah, that was phenomenal. We set the groundwork for what we're about to do right now. The brother's going to bring us the presentation, Magical Kemet, the magic and rituals of ancient Kemet, and how you can apply it today. Brother Mfundishi Jatin, but right before he goes on, I have to make these announcements. The Nubian Summit at the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston. It's going to be May 1st. The largest collection of Nubian artifacts in the Western Hemisphere is housed in the Boston Museum of Fine Arts. What we're going to do is we're going to have a tour of the museum, a bus trip leaving from Brooklyn, Harlem, and Queens. Brooklyn's going to leave from right outside here, LIU. That's the bus we got. We got another bus leaving from Queens on Parsons Boulevard and Jamaica Avenue. And another one in Harlem in front of Black and Gold, that's 70 West 125th Street. For any information, come see me. Speak to Brother Mfundishi after the lecture. He's a part of it. Also, on that same day, if you're in New York, Brother King Simon Productions going to have Brother Polite. Yeah, that's a good brother, man. That's a young brother. I'll say no matter what your opinions are, what your viewpoints are, that's a young brother, 27 years old, doing his thing, and we can knock them for doing that negative stuff, but we gotta go and support them when they do this stuff. You know what I'm saying? And that's what that's about. And it's gonna be, he's gonna also have Queen of Fua there that same day, May 1st, Sunday, located at the National Black Theater in Harlem. That's 5th Avenue between 126th and 125th Street. For any information, advance tickets, anything like that, get at my man King Simon. I'm about to blow him out the water. I'm going to give his number out. Hold up.
The 496 number.
Nah, it's the other one. All right, 347-496-1022. That's 347-496-1022. Come on out and support that brother. All the efforts of King Simon. He also has every Wednesday at Nicholas Bookstore on Fulton Street, right here downtown Brooklyn, right around the corner between Flatbush and, what's that? Rockwell. That's right, I should know. Rockwell. Every Wednesday, which one is up next? The 20th.
Vaccines are dangerous.
Vaccines are dangerous. Woo, we know that. Curtis Carson, the Sister Abundance Child will be there. And next week he's going to have, who's that, Understanding the Law?
Yeah, Messiah Bay.
Messiah Bay, all right? Just support the brother, you know. Just come on through and all our efforts, you know, we different people, different places, doing the same thing. And come get at that brother. It's different flavors of all of it. That brother Polite, go see him. May 1st. All right, after that, I got April 24th. That's their Easter holiday or whatever. Brother Umar Johnson, right here. Brother Umar Johnson is going to be in Queens at the African Poetry Theater at 176-03 Jamaica Avenue. Between two, actually the time is different than this. They gave him a different time, but it's $10. For information, give me a call. I'll give you all. My number is 347. Damn, I don't even want to do this on the tape. All right, 347-683-8122. About the lectures, call me. Not 2 o'clock in the morning. Did you see Nibiru in the sky? No, I don't know about this. If you want to talk about a lecture, cool. All right, let's see. Saturday, June 4th, right here. Not in this room, but in the next room. We're going to be having Bobby Hemmett. I'm going to do it in this room. I like this room. It's more comfortable. Bobby Hemmett will be here. Rapid, miraculous, third eye acceleration, like Brother Kaba said when he's talking about Bobby and these brothers. You're never the same after you listen to him. So come on out and check that out. He's going to give you some information from a different point of view than what you usually hear. That's a good way to say it, right? All right, then we got Dr. Mitchell Gibson coming in July 2nd, right here, from 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. Dr. Mitchell Gibson, he'll be here. Also, oh man, Hank Risen's son. I'm sorry, Hank, I can't do all the cards you gave me. I'm gonna give you a number, man. Hank Risen's son. He's about water. Anything about water, go see Hank. I can't do all the cards. I ain't got no time.
No, the light blue one, bro. The light blue one. Meditation.
Yeah, Fridays. Where is it at, man? Fridays.
Every Friday.
I know every Friday from 6 to 9.
From 7 until.
7 until, get at him, he gives a pineal gland expanding meditation at his house. I ain't gonna give his address. The number is 347-475-1335. Get at that brother. Also, Sister Bastet, Platinum Beauty Jewelry. Check her out. You see her thing. Oh, she only giving, she's smart. All she got is her Facebook, The Goddess Bastet, and her email address. www.platinumbeautijewelry.webs.com. I gotta get up on that on this phone call. Brother Kaba, Panther Prince, Kaba Hawata Kameni, his number, I'm giving your number out. 718
646
it's 646
457
457
0558.
0558. Get at the brother. If y'all want him to come do a lecture, y'all want to do whatever with the brother, he's very willing and he's here. And this is a jewel. Like these two brothers, I consider them to be jewels that we got amongst us. A lot of times we reach out, get all these speakers from all over the place, and then turn around, bam, who's here? These brothers are here. They're two brothers Azazel right there. You know what I'm saying? They right here. All we need is right here. We could get those people too, but these are our homeboys. You know what I'm saying? Simon, I'm doing what else you got? This brother Mfundishi, I'm not going to say it.
Break it out, brother. Go ahead, break it out.
I got to bring this brother up. Oh, Sister Sarah. Yo, Sister Bass, she's in the building. She did a concert the other night. It's crazy. I wasn't feeling proud of it, but she's nice. We complain about Lil Wayne and Nicki Minaj. Now we got somebody with something for them. And dropping some signs, and it's beautiful. You know, she's out there. She got the CDs out there, Supernova and The Journey of the Star Seed. Some bad stuff here. Dropping a lot of jewels on it. Y'all got to get up on it. $10 a piece. She's out there with them. So with no further ado, I give you my brother, a very patient brother. He sat there and listened to me do all this patiently, but we about to go in. The brother laid the groundwork. He's about to go heavy into it. You know, I don't even know what he's going to do. I'm going to learn right now with him. Brother Mfundishi is going to break down Magical Chemistry.
E.M. Hotep.
Yeah.
Before I start, I'd like to ask permission for my elders who are here.
Speak.
Start, my brother.
Thank you, brother.
Speak.
I'm going to pass something around. This is the sacred blue lotus. This is what was taken by the ancients before they entered the temple. The idea was to alter your consciousness so that all the outside world will be left outside and you were ready to join the ancestors that exist within you. And so your consciousness rose. That was the reason for the incense and the sacred oils and stuff. And so we get ready to take a magical journey. I just want you to take bit and roll it on your wrist and rub your wrists together. Because it's going to be, every once in a while when I go in real deep, I'm going to say, take a sniff. Rub it on your wrist and pass it around. Okay?
You know how hard he's going to put it on you.
Okay. E.M. Hotep, Uncle Jah Seneb Neb. We are divine spiritual beings having a divine human experience. And most of us leave the word divine out. We have to regroup. Brother Kaba began to break down who we really are. Some of us don't even know it. Even those of us who are African historians. Even those of us who think we're up on it. We don't really know who we are.
Look at.
We are the essence of the cosmic universe. We are the black plasmic matter that exists within our blood. Your blood is liquid crystal. You are a dynamic human being capable of things beyond your comprehension. When they look at the smallest particle in the universe, a quark, it appears and vanishes, appears and vanishes. And it vanishes and appears based upon the observer to let you know that the Creator is observing itself through you.
Teach.
That's how powerful you are. And we're ready. At this time, 2012, we were talking with Reverend Clemson, and he was saying we have to pay attention to this number. Because so many people have made reference to it. But brothers and sisters, 2012 is here now. You can see things happening. The magnetic poles are changing. and shifting. You see volcanoes, tsunamis. You see earthquakes. You see things moving at an accelerated rate. The weather's going crazy. Things are happening. Some of this is not just based on the Wazungu, the European Caucasians who are trying to survive in the 21st century when their time is up. A lot of this is Mother Nature, Father Nature regrouping itself for the next millennium.
Put it
For
on.
this Aquarian age. And so, brothers and sisters, you need to be prepared. Don't get caught with your pants down. You heard Brother Kaba say a lot of y'all showing your pants because your elders showed their pants. Pull your pants up, because if your pants is down, you ain't going to be able to get away. Be prepared for the worst. If it doesn't happen, then you are just sitting pretty. But if it does, you are prepared. Get to a place where you can go at least 90 feet above sea level. Make sure you can get there with your family and have supplies of water and food.
Yes, sir. Oh, yeah.
Because things are ready. Start preparing yourself with silver and gold and copper. Because you're going to have to barter for things. Food. Remember, we built the pyramids with no money. The greatest human resource, economic resource you have is your spirit, your human energy. And collectively, we represent an infinite reservoir of richness. And so we have to begin to harness that energy so that you can be able to use it when time is necessary. Magical Kemet. You noticed me and Professor Small were talking one day, and he was saying, you know, as we travel all around the world, everybody's fascinated with ancient Kemet, which we call Egypt today. But nobody's more fascinated with it than Africans in America.
Come on.
Africans on the continent are not that fascinated about Kemet. They've almost been programmed that this is somebody else. But Africans in America, we know this is us. And so me and Professor Small we were building. And as we began to analyze African movement on the continent, we noticed that around the time that Africans were kidnapped from the continent and brought to the Caribbeans and dispersed throughout the diaspora to America, that was the same time that we had this invasion of Eastern Africa. And these Africans had to fight for their life. We know that some of our chiefs and generals in their indigenous cultures sold some of our people, bartered our people off. But they didn't barter necessarily the people in their immediate village. What they did is they went out and got people who were just migrating, who were just passing through, who were just coming. We were coming from the valley, coming from the Happy Valley. We got caught in this transatlantic slave trade. And so many of the Africans that are dispersed throughout the diaspora are people of African descent who actually come from the Happy Valley. And so we got the Neteru in our blood. We are the Neteru. I have conversations with people. They don't know the Medu Neter, but they can feel it. They identify with the Neteru. They have dreams that they were the divine beings in other lifetimes. Your sister raising her hand. Amen. I get to testify, witness. A lot of us feel that. And we have young brothers, hip hoppers and stuff. They got all these symbols tattooed on their body. They don't even know what it means. But they got the ankhs and wings of Ma'at all tattooed all over because they feel this energy. We are these divine beings, the greatest civilization in the modern world. And I say the modern world is anything after 10,000 years ago, the last ice age. The last ice age put an end to several golden ages that existed on the planet Earth. Planet Earth goes through these cycles. Brother Kaba broke down, for example, in the pyramid text, they talk about how they have been plotting 3 sun years. A sun year is approximately 26,000 years, the whole precession of the equinox. And so if we've plotted 3 sun years, more than 75,000 years, we had to be into the science long before that to create the math to plot it.
And deal with these.
We created the first star charts. We created star charts of the heavens before most people were born on any other planets, on any other continents. So I need to be real clear. We were doing agriculture. We were smelting iron. See, one of the things you don't know about ancient Kush, that it was the first world smelting of iron industry in the world. And so those people who smelted iron were called Shimsu Haru, followers of Haru. And they were the blacksmiths. And we don't get a chance to talk about this. In Dr. Van Sertiver's books, Blacks in Science, he talks about an iron smelting machine approximately in the area of Kenya, Tanzania, that was smelting iron at temperatures where you can create steel, which wasn't created for Europeans until about 150, 200 years ago. We were doing it before or parallel to ancient Kemet.
Come on.
I'm going to show you some slides and some pictures of some stones that are almost as hard as diamond, diorite, that's perfectly carved. And they told you that the ancient Egyptians only had copper and tin tools. You need diamond cutters to cut this. So I'm trying to tell you, ancient Kemet started out almost at its height. It started out where America won't reach into another 500 to 1,000 years. That's how dynamic we are. And ancient Kemet began to decline each generation. One of my former teachers, Dr. Asa Hilliard, broke down that we have to redefine our story. And so he broke it down to the first golden age, the second golden age, the third golden age, and the fourth golden age. And so dynasties were created by our European Caucasians during the Greek era, when Manetho was explaining our story to the Greeks. They broke everything up into family groups, so a dynasty is just a family group, okay? And so it's not 10 years, like a decade or a century, like, you know, it's just, it could be a dynasty could be 8 years, a dynasty could be 100 years, a dynasty could be 200 years. It's that family rule, okay? So those are fictitious. They have nothing to do with ancient Kemet.
Teach.
So I need to make that clear. They have nothing to do. Akhenaten didn't know he was the 15th Nasut of the 18th dynasty. Okay, I need to make that clear, all right? So it's clear. What we have is the reunification of ancient Kemet, approximately the date around 4240 ST, which is equal to the year 1. 4240 BCE. 4240 BCE is equal to the year 1 ST, Semitawi. That's the beginning if you are charting things from the civilization of ancient Kemet. But year 1 is the reunification of Kemet, because that's the so that's the first golden age in the modern era. But we can see heirlooms of other golden ages that came before. I'm going to show you a picture of Taneta Anu, who was an African ruler that ruled about 7,500 BCE. And this is still 3,000 years before Kemet, to let you know we were still ruling these golden ages, but they don't have the records. As they still unearth things, they're going deeper and deeper down this rabbit hole, you know, to see exactly just how old we are, or just how old our civilization. But they can't tell you all of this, because the great question comes up is, where were they?
Look at it.
Right, you know? So they have to begin to talk about, well, were the Germans here? Were the French here? Were the British? No! Not even on the planet. And so, therefore, they're not going to put a lot of that information out. They might just say it's pre-dynastic. Like some of these bowls that were carved out of diorite that's a 9.0 on the hardness scale. Go back to a golden age that preceded the last great flood. And I need to tell people, you need to study topography and geography if you want to even have an inkling of understanding history. I know today they don't even teach geography anymore. They throw it in with social studies. And that's to keep you ignorant. They don't want you to know anything about the planet Earth. You are the planet Earth. You are the essence of this planet. You are a carbon-based unit based on copper and iron. That's in your blood. European Caucasians are ammonia-based people. And you will know that if you ever got caught in the elevator with them. Okay. So now, I want to drop some things down. My divine brother Cabo talked about language.
Go ahead and break it down.
Some of y'all will get that in the morning.
It's all right. Break it down.
Talked about language. How a language is the expression of a culture. Your culture is not to teach you just to survive, but it teaches you how to flourish. So when you out of your culture, you are out of your living mind. And it's very dangerous when somebody else defines your thought pattern. Dr. Amos Wilson used to tell us that our colonizer has given us their desires.
Take your time.
So even the most Afrocentric of us are recovering addicts of white male domination. Now you know if you're an alcoholic and you haven't had a drink in 10 years, you're still a what? You're just a recovering alcoholic that haven't drank. I'm saying that anybody in this room, if you've been educated by Europeans, been indoctrinated in any of their religious institutions, if you've been today, if you are a movie addict, a television addict, radio addict, if you are in love with English, if you and if this is the only language you know, then you're an addict of white male domination.
Put it on.
You might be at a suicidal state. You might be responsible for the destruction of your family and everybody around you.
Call it how you see it.
And you're afraid to destroy your enemy because you're so much like your enemy, you're afraid to destroy yourself.
It is what it is.
And that's where we are. And so we have to change our paradigm. Change the way we look at things. Think about it. Even your definition of success is defined by your enemy.
Don't hurt him.
Your parents told you, get a good what? Job. You don't want a job. You'll be just over broke your whole life. And whose education are you getting? You can't get a good education in these universities. And I know, I was in them. I got 2 PhDs and 3 masters. And what I'm teaching you today, none of it came from their institutions. It came from outside studies and books and traveling. Brothers and sisters, your best education is to go to the source. Go to the source. So hopefully some of y'all will come with us on May 1st to Boston to look in some of our heirlooms that are locked up in lockdown. All right? Some of y'all will travel to Kemet with us and travel to other places in Africa. But before you travel, you got to get your spatial perspective correct.
Get it correct.
Not your orientation. If somebody's getting ready to orientate you, they get ready to bamboozle you. So when you go to your job and they say you got to go to orientation, you get ready to get bamboozled. You go to a new school, you got to go to orientation, you get ready to get bamboozled. Okay? You need proper spatial perspective. So now let me run this on you real quick. Brother Copper gave you some pictures of the earth, pictures of the Africa. I'm going to change your world just a little bit.
I want to change.
Peterson projection is good, but it's not good enough.
Not good enough.
If you buy the book in Peterson Projection, inside of that same book, he has a map like this. And he says, maybe the Australians are not wrong. Maybe they're not down under. Maybe we're upside down. But he can't sell this to the schools or he'll be broke. So he doesn't sell this. He just lets you know that this is probably the proper spatial perspective of the world. See, he's trying to make money. He has to send his kids to school. Okay? But this is a proper spatial. So this is how the Africans left the continent. So you begin to see. So, up here I drew Africa. So, no, I didn't draw it upside down. You've been upside down. The Happy River, which they call the Nile, does not flow up north. It flows down north. Europe is not above Africa, like they've been telling you your whole life. It's below Africa. The whole continent, Africa is the only continent between the Tropic of Capricorn and the Tropic of Cancer, with the equator almost dividing it directly in half. No other continent has that. That means that you're a tropical and subtropical people. And it doesn't matter that you were born in New York, Philadelphia, Chicago. within your veins, your DNA, you are still a tropical and subtropical person. So you should be eating like that. Your stomach culture is still that. All right? So I need to just make sure that clear. This word, mahet, means north, but it also means down. This word, the word sut, or sutin, or suti, or rashi, means south, but it also means up. This word, amenti, means west, but it also means right. This word, yabit, means east, but it also means left. We had this plotted before the Europeans knew there was directions.
Come on.
Before the Asiatics came out of their caves and were civilized by us. And so we set up directions. And in order for your west to be on the right side, you have to be facing like this, facing up to the land of where your ancestors come from. But the Kaaba showed you that in this region, in Central Africa, is the origins of where all of us come from. And from there we migrated to the continents. So you need to be real clear on our migration. And we stayed, when we migrated into Asia and into Australia, we stayed along the coast here. And so all the people along the coast here are people that have melanin. And all out. If you've ever been to Papua New Guinea, you would think you were in the Congo. Same culture, everything, just a different language. Go to Australia, you would still think you're in East Africa or Madagascar. Same people. In Madagascar, there are also people with black skin, with sandy blonde, red hair. Just like that. But look where Australia is, and look where Madagascar. They're on the same parallel. Same meridian. Y'all understand what's going on? There's a science here that our ancestors laid down. So not only did they plot the stars, they plotted the earth, the grids ran right through where the pyramids are. Sacred grids. There are 3 major points we call mountains of the moon. Kilimanjaro means mountain of the moon in Kiswahili. Mount Wanzuri is mountain of the moon in one of the languages in Uganda. And Mount Choka, the mountain of the moon in Ethiopia. All of them feed into the Nile, which was in ancient time was called Hapi. Not happy. I know you happy for the information, but it was Hapi. Okay? So, a twisted rope, flat, which also symbolizes your DNA. I'm going to really get into this Mudu Necha if y'all give me a minute. Because this is your classical language. Think about it. The Mudu Necha was ancient before the first Greek got to Greece. So you know Greek can't be your classical language. So you have to be really clear. We are the original inhabitants of the area they call Greece. That used to be all water and canals, and we drained the land and started civilization as a colony there. And the Wazungu coming out of the rainforest got tired of eating each other, and they began to migrate around us. And then they became the first ones with Macedonia and then into Egypt. Into the land we call Greek today. Okay. So this is the word Hapi. The twisted flax stands for your DNA. So our lifespan is connected to the Hapi River. There is the hand. This is a receiving information, receiving knowledge, receiving life. There is the mat in which everything rests. If you know in Africa, you sleep on the mat. You eat on the mat. You rest on the mat. You have conference on the mat. And when it gets deep, you roll up your mat and take it with you. This is the canal. The canal, myrrh. And even the same word for love is myrrh. But this canal, if you don't have no water, you ain't got no love. Look where there's no water. There's no love. Okay. And so they built canals to go out in to make sure that the love was every place they were. And then you see the 3 waves of energy, which is also the word for water, mu. And then Hapi, there's a little hermaphrodite at the end. It's a man, beard, he has a breast, he's pregnant, he has a phallus, he got it all. Water is trying to show you that it can give life by itself. Just very nature harnesses life. Okay, so Hapi, this is our lifeline. It goes from Central Africa. It's over 4,160 miles long, the longest river in the world. That's not an accident. So we have to understand this lifeline. It's a cultural highway. Not only did the information come from inside of Africa, traveling down the Hapi River, the culture flowed that way, the language flowed that way, and trade. So it became a cultural highway, a economic, commercial highway, and all of that. And trade took place in Africa, all the way to South Africa for literally hundreds of thousands of years before we left the continent. But when we left the continent, brothers and sisters, we were intact already. We set up the first dynasty in China, the Shang dynasty, actually the first two dynasties. In China. We taught them the language of reading. That's why their writing is down like ours, goes from right to left and top down, just like ours.
Right.
But, like Brother Cabo talked about, they got words in there that's not indicative to their culture. And so somebody came in and helped them set this up. Took their language and stuff. Every word that makes reference to astrology, astronomy, or the sky is an African word.
Come on.
You need to be clear about that.
Very
Look at
clear.
a lot of places all along here are imitations of actually what's going on here that's left in this world. Because you have to understand, at the last flood, all of this area went under. Africa is a plateau, the whole continent. The whole continent is a plateau. And so when Europe was totally submerged with water, or ice first and then water, Africa was still a valuable place. This is why they don't want you to know geography. But how many people saw the movie 2012? When the water finally receded and the rest of the world was destroyed, where were they at? Africa. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so this information is there. A lot of people, my Moor brothers, a lot of people, no, civilization was here in North America first. No, I need to tell you, during the Ice Age, North America all the way to Florida was under ice. Where there was a flourishing civilization here, this was under ice. People don't know geography. Some of the brothers is like, no, when the continents moved, we moved with it, like they were surfing the continents as they was moving. No. When the continents moved, there was no people here. All right, so I need to be real clear about that. They talk about, 65 million years ago was the last disaster. They got footprints and stuff like that of human beings older than that. But we won't go that deep yet.
Don't want to go that deep.
Okay, all right. Now that we got our spatial perspective correct, you're not getting orientated here. You got your proper spatial perspective together. And you'll understand. In the Hapi River, we buried our dead on the western bank of the Nile where the sun sets. Okay? The sun rose in the east and sets in the west. We face most of our temples orientated like this or south in the direction of our ancestors. Okay? Not north. So you need to be very, very clear about this. So now that we got our spatial perspective right, we have a little direction of what's going on in the interior. I want to talk about some of these places. Ancient Kemet could not come into existence without places like this first. This is called, let me erase some of this so that you can see what's going on.
Take your time.
This first one is called Ta Seti. Ta Seti is one of the ancient names of Kush or Kash, or what you call Sudan in present day. It means the land of the bow. We were the greatest archers in the world. How many people saw the movie Hero? Right, with Jet Li and all of right? You remember the archers and the bow? They took that from ancient Kush. The Chinese wasn't that deep with the arrow until we introduced it to them. So that was a scene coming out of ancient Kush where your arrow, when we attacked our opponent, and there was so many archers that the sky turned black. Okay, so I need you to clearly understand. Ta Seti, another name for ancient Kush. We also call that area Kash. I know today we use Kush. That's just a European venderation. If you learn the Medu Necha, it's Kash. And that's why you'll see Kashite, Kashata, Kushata. All those are venerations of Kash. So Kush is a modern rendition of the ancient name Kash. Okay. When you see mountains at the end, it just meant that this was a foreign land outside of ancient Kemet. So when I'm writing it the way the ancient Kemet wrote the name of these countries. When they wrote their name, they probably wouldn't have had foreign mountains there. Okay? But if you understand the Happy Valley, everything outside of Kemet, you got to go to the mountains. And so that's why when they talk about foreign countries, this is a determinative. That means this is outside of the borders of Kemet. So, Ta-Seti Kash. Also, they call it Ta-Nehesi. Ta-Nehesi, the land of the Hesi bird, a guinea fowl. Okay. Where the Nechaneet is, who is the archery. Okay, I'm going to go into some of the Necharu in a minute. This is one of the most affectionate names of Kemet, and it's written like this: Kemet, the black community. This is the determinative for community, city, or town. Not the black land, like the European Egypt. See, the European Egyptologists didn't even want you to know it meant black anything. But then we start reading and we do Necha, they would say, oh, okay, it's out it's out the box. Okay, all right, y'all got the black part down. But it's black land, because the Nile overflow will leave everything black. So I had never went to Egypt at the time, so I said, okay, that sounds pretty good, fertile land, black land. But then I'm start doing my reading, and the people were called the Kemet-U, the black people. I said, did the Nile overflow on them too? No, this black means something else. This is talking about melanin. All right. Dr. Ben liked to use this. This is one of their most affectionate names, Ta-Meri. It means the beloved land. That's the affection they had for the land, the beloved land. And it was righteous all year round. This is the symbol for year. And so their community was beloved all year round.
And they got a state by that name.
Okay, all right. Then. And this is the third name of ancient Kemet. So Kemet had three major names now. The other one is Sima-Tawi, the united two lands. This is the heart with the tricular veins so the oxygen can get in there. Because if there's no oxygen going to the heart, that's all, folks. All right? So that's unity. Shows unity here. So Sima-Tawi, the united two lands. So that's what ancient Kemet. This is the mother, the parents of ancient Kemet. And now this is Kemet. So this is why it's so important for you. This land, this is 3 dots there represent the mineral carbon. Carbon-based land. When the ancient Kemet-U talk about eternity, they do something like this. Watch this.